It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Laurie Rivers, your host, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. And this is the week to start moving and grooving. And I would say a little bit of grind, not the hustle. Okay, you want to take really deliberate action. And the reason why is we've got some great energy for it. Now, the outer world may be still chaotic. I've been talking about massive systemic change for many years, even before I hit the social media with it, okay? We are just in that time of enduring change. But with that is opportunity if you seek it out. Now, one of the cool things that we had with that new moon on the 16th was it was in a separating sextile from Jupiter in Cancer. Taurus and Cancer are financial signs. They're all about security. And security is an inside out thing. I know we think it has to do with the job. I know we think it has to do with what's in the bank account. But that's actually symbolic of what we can bring here. If we're overly reliant in the outer world, then it's kind of like holding on to expectations or being attached to outcomes. When we're handing our power 100% over to other people, whoever it is, we're putting ourselves more at risk. We are then insecure. Notice security. Okay. So I'm not saying we don't have up and downs financially in life, and there's things that sometimes are out of our control. But what we do have this week, today, Monday afternoon, we have Mars moving into Taurus and Venus moving into Cancer, and they're backing up that really juicy energy that the new moon in Taurus gave us. And I'm going to just say this. There's a lot of people who talk about manifestation, and they either do victim blaming with it, like, oh, you weren't vibing right, or they make it sound like you've got to be perfect to get it, or they make it like you just sit on the couch and wait for the universe to pick you, and that's really not how it works. We are co-conspirators with the universe. We are co-creators with the universe. We are actually agents of the universe as we spiritualize matter. And in order to make things happen, we have to take action. But it's better to take action from a deliberate, on purpose point of view than a panic point of view. Have you ever noticed when things are getting a little bit iffy and spooky and you start to spiral and panic, everything goes wrong? Maybe you lose your keys, your wallet is misplaced, the kids get sick, your boss gets mad, and it just cascades. Who can hold their consciousness? And that's what I mean by holding the consciousness, remaining calm regardless. You want to put your blinders on. I wrote an entire post about that in the Awake Space community, and you can read. It's kind of a split post. There's a lot of information for free. And then if you want more step-by-step action, you can join as a member for that. We want to get things on paper and we want to tick them off. This is not a to-do list. This is an action plan. I think to-do lists are kind of counterintuitive because they just put pressure on and they keep us in this cycle of busyness without necessarily being productive. So we want to look at efficiency, effectiveness, and security as we go through this week. I'm going to talk about that more here on the podcast and give you some solid tips and hints on how to use this energy. What else am I going to talk about? I'm still in London, as you can see. I'm in the little apartment in London. The Chelsea Flower Show is going on this week. What a perfect week for it, with Mars moving into Taurus and Venus in Cancer. I'm sure it's just going to be phenomenal. I'm recording this early because tonight I am doing charts and channeling with Matilda, and I need to get a nap in. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be 1 a.m. here in England. So, but I'll catch you up on what I've been up to and how I've been using the astrology and how I suggest you use yours. I think we need to have a talk about what astrology is good for, and the point of view that will help you the most, okay? Because I think a lot of times the perspective makes astrology magic, and it can be used if you do magic, but it is not inherently magic itself. It's not blessing you, it's not cursing you. You are neither blessed nor cursed. And there are things you can do in life to make things better for you. And that's something I'll talk about today as well. All right, get your tea, get your coffee, get your matcha, get your H2O. And let's do this. Whether we're going to work or taking a shower or body doubling with you, doing the dishes or whatever other thing we're doing together, we could be out in the garden getting ready for the end of school. And teachers, deep breaths. You're almost there. Parents, deep breaths. There's things you can do with the kids. Okay, remember the blessings. And whatever we're doing, we're going to do it together. Let's get moving. I am really excited about the energy that's going to come in with Mars in Taurus and Venus in Cancer, because that's the Cha-Ching zone. And like I said, regardless of the chaos that's in the outer world, there's a ton of opportunity available to us if we move with deliberate action, when we take things step by step, when we don't let ourselves get overstimulated by all the news, and especially from the mainstream media, but even social media. Things are being done to push your adrenaline up. When we look at the meeting between the US and China, is there a damn thing you can do about any of it? No, no, there's not. So why are you obsessing over it? Unless you're in a position to actually make an impact there. And you can call your representatives, you can do what you can do. After that, there is nothing more you can do about it. You damn well be looking after yourself. And Astro Mom is going to be really hammering away at that. It's really, really, really important to really push for this now. Okay. You have to look after you and yours. Okay. You can't be overly reliant on other people. If you are, it's time to start looking at how can I either be a co-creator, interdependent, or how I can secure myself and those I care about. When I say secure yourself, I'm not saying throw the dogs and the cat out the window and lock the kids in the closet. I'm not saying that. Your security, my security always includes my children. Okay? They are part of the package. I carried them in my body. I gave birth to them. It's a lifelong job. So when I think about my security, I'm thinking about their security as well. That is primary above all else, because we are all connected, okay? From that unit, then I think outside, okay? How can I contribute? Where can I donate? What kind of projects can I be part of? That's important. Right now, where we're at with global instability, economic instability, it's important to look for the opportunities, because if you think they're not there, think again. There's a reason the pot is being stirred, and we're looking at a complete restructuring. And in that is a lot of opportunity. That's why the people who drive economies are shaking things up. You think they're not making money? No reason you can't either. And you're going to say, but Laurie, this is about spirituality, and you can't think about money if you're spiritual. Isn't that a convenient thought form? One of the reasons a lot of religions, especially Christianity, emphasized that money was bad was so that the people in power could keep the money and the people who weren't would stay disenfranchised. If the only people who are making money are the bad guys, we are hosed. We are not fully hosed yet. And I still say private equity is going to be having its comeuppance as we move along the next couple of years. That being said, back to you. You can't just sit and wait for other people to get their karma. Stop it. That's lazy. It's lazy. I'm really going to be writing your butts, okay? Because while you're busy waiting for other people to get their karma, you're not taking care of yours. You are not blameless. You are not without responsibility, and you need to show up for you. I know it's hard. I know it's hard when we're neurospicy. I know it's hard when we have trauma. I know it's hard when we have difficulties. I do, because I have had it all. Still neurodivergent. There's things that will bring up old pathways trying to work, and I have to be very deliberate to shut it down. So I get it. I get what it's like to live on the struggle bus. I'm not somebody who started from nothing with a check from mommy and daddy for a couple $100,000. My mommy and daddy didn't cut me a check. I love my parents. I help my parents. But my parents did not come to my rescue as an adult. Not one time. Not one time. They didn't interact with me until I was actually doing better. So just remember that. As Ram Dass said, you think you're enlightened until you spend time with your parents. That's how I know I have come as far as I have. Okay? This is the time to put things onto paper. We've got Mercury in Gemini, Mars in Taurus, Venus in Cancer. These are all really good things. You don't want to be up in your head. You want things written on paper. And in the Awake Space community, let me grab my notebook. Look at that. Isn't that cute? My daughter bought me that for Mother's Day. I put up a mind map. And I'm going to go through this in the test lab. And I know test lab, guys, I haven't been in, but it's been a whole deal. I'll catch up with you soon. I promise. I'm still like adjusting to the time zone. Okay. This is a mind map. You can make them in all kinds of ways. They can look like a flow chart. And yes, you can do it digitally, but I'm going to say with Mars in Taurus, Mercury in Gemini, Venus in Cancer, do it on paper. It doesn't have to be in a fancy journal. It can be on a napkin, for God's sake. You want to have a central idea, and from that, you're going to branch off the different parts. And then if I'll show it again, if you look at this. So we've got our central idea. And then I have different parts. So like, where is this? This is the Awake Space. So I've got the podcast. I've got the magazine. I've got the Woke Astrology website. So this is pretty much anything to do with astrology and consciousness. I've got some other podcast projects we're mapping out, the different websites that need to get worked on. And then I'm going to sit and choose the things that are easiest for me to do right off the top. So right now we're working on the Awake Space. All right, I have to go to Turkey and get a surgery done, and not a small one. I had a terrible bike accident when I was 9 years old, and in fact, there was no skin left on my face. That scar you see on my lip is from that in 1978. We didn't have bicycle helmets, and let me tell you, put your rubber bands on your bell bottoms when you're riding your bike. And anyway, I have had reconstructive surgery on my jaw more than once, and it looks like I might have to do it again, but we're definitely going to fix the front again. It's like the third or fourth time. Hopefully it'll be the last time. Pardon the ambient noise. I'm in Chelsea in London, and big engines are out because it's the weekend. So while I'm over here, I'm probably gonna just go to Turkey for less than the price than what that will cost me in the States. I can do it in Turkey and get babied and not just get given Tylenol. That's my favorite. They're like, oh, it doesn't hurt that bad. I'm like, sure, you do it. So before I do these other things, I have some preparation, right? I have some preparation to do. I'm also working on the books, and I didn't put the books on that mind map. One of the things I did this week, or last week I should say, is I got a demo copy done of Living by Luna, and I put some quips up in Patreon, which if you haven't checked out Patreon, it's not just a platform to support creatives, your favorite creators, a lot of your podcasters, your artists, your musicians, your writers, your game developers. I think there's even crypto bros on there. I mean, I know there's scientists. There's math teachers that do really crazy cool math things. There's paleontologists and people into dinosaurs. Super fine, super fine. But they've got they've started a new network that isn't driven by the algorithm. It's driven by connection. Connection. So the people you're connected to, you see what they're doing, and you have quips, and it's a little bit like tweets, you could say. And so you can see those things for free. You don't have to be a subscriber even. But if you go to the community in the show notes, you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, I made a demo copy of Living by Luna. This is not the whole thing because the whole thing that you will see will be 6x9 and a lot of journal pages. I only did like a month's worth of journal pages because I'm going to be recording class content that goes with this. I wrote the original in 2019, and if you're an original supporter of the Wake Space, you may have been in that tier, and we would meet once a month and I would go through everything with you, and you learned how to not just track the lunar transits, but understand your personal rhythm based on that. It's a little deeper. I think everybody, when it comes to astrology, is looking for the magic bullet. Let me put that down over here. There's no magic bullet. There's becoming self-aware, which is not self-accusatory. It's not about blame. It's not about guilt. It's not about anything except understanding you and your natural rhythm, not why you can't do things. Okay, therapy is great for a certain amount. It is. And yet I find that therapy keeps people stuck in analysis, which causes paralysis instead of forward action. That's one of the reasons I became a coach, a certified coach, was because I didn't want to sit and excavate everyone's past, because I don't think we need to have all of that information to move forward. I think we can have a starting point that we wish to move forward from. If you need to do the therapy, go do it. But it's not going to move you forward, okay? So you can do that to heal, release, but you can still be moving forward while you do that bit. And that's what I'm dedicated to. I'm dedicated to helping people not excavate the pain, but see the healing route. And I don't think you have to dive into the pain to heal. And I say that as a Scorpio rising who was so convinced I had to feel it all. Learn from my mistakes. You get lost in all of that. So that's some of the stuff we're looking at. And with Mars in Taurus, especially, you want to keep your blinders on. I wrote about that in the Awake Space. Here, let me share a little bit of it with you, and then you can see that. I'll link this post in the show notes called Taurus New Moon, May 16th. On a personal level, the Taurus New Moon brings some powerful energy to help us all with projects and plans that are already in motion. This new moon is offering a loud clarion call to build forward, to put the blinders on, and to get into action building. On top of the new moon in Taurus, there's some interesting energy popping up over the next week or so. It can be very good on an individual level when we're able to practice tuning in to what it is that makes us feel more secure, more cozy, and more at home in ourselves. I spoke about this in the live stream, and it's linked up. And every month I write about the energy of the new and full moons in the Awake Space magazine. You can find that in the May issue, and that's linked up. The good news. Regardless of what's happening in the outer world, on a personal level, you do have agency on how you manage through interesting times. When I say put the blinders on, I'm not saying to put on a blindfold. Blinders are used on horses to help them stay distraction-free when they're running a race or pulling a carriage in a city. And I've got pictures of the horses. Blinders don't make the world go away. They do, however, help you keep your focus. You can't win a race by looking to the sides or even behind you. That's why metaphorical blinders are important. That's why we want to hold our focus. When I say put your blinders on for the next few weeks, it's to help you shut out the distractions. It's to help you focus on the incoming good stuff. If you don't hold your focus on your forward direction, it's easy to get bogged down in the narratives of those who would use dominance and control and are tossing it out fast and furiously. They make money when you're outraged, concerned, worried, and panicking. You make money and hold stability when you're at ease, focused, and taking care of your business. It's why we're told to mind our business. Now is the time to be a little insular and focused wholly on those things and people who utterly align to your vision. Is this selfish? A little bit. All mammals are selfish, and we are indeed mammals, animals. We are not above, nor are we below the others in the grand scheme of things. All year, I've been asking you to remember what is in your control and let go of what is not. It takes practice. But if you sit on your hands, repeat old patterns, and don't actually practice, nothing of significance will change. When I tell you this energy is really good if you work it, I mean it. So get your blinders on. Let's focus. The Taurus new moon is at 25 degrees, 57 minutes of Taurus. It's separating off a sextile with Jupiter. In plain speak, your security needs are up on deck, and in Technicolor, I've warned about how austerity brings declining returns. Based off personal experience back in 2006, there was no more room to tighten the belt. Salary capped, no raises in sight, 2 kids in growth spurts, no jobs available. There was nothing left to cut. The only thing left was to bring more income in. But how? How to bring money in when after sending out 100 resumes, not even one interview happened? How to bring money in when the only jobs that might happen would cost me to work because of the distance to and from the office and the cost of childcare? How to do it. Remember, that was 2006 before the crash. Okay? I was already selling my hand spun yarn as kind of a hobby in the summer. Looking around the house, that was it. It was time to kick it up a notch. I literally had nothing to lose, and anything would be a gain. So it was time to move and groove. This new moon is like that, and Venus and Mars are chasing her up on the 18th, giving the perfect time to lay foundations to build security forward. I've been telling people for 20 years, get entrepreneurial, have a side gig, even if you're bringing in just enough to buy shoes for the kids. It takes the stress off, and it takes time, practice, and consistency. The number one mistake people make is doing something once or twice and deciding it doesn't work. Are you kidding me? It takes a lot of practice. It takes dedication. And it's important to choose something you kind of sort of like to do because you can't look at it like work. Because we've made work a dirty word. We can like what we do, okay, on the daily. With this new moon in Taurus, you better work. And I have a lovely little meme of RuPaul. Work it, work you, sachet, make it glow. Mars enters Taurus on May 18th and followed quickly by Venus in Cancer. The same day, talk about divas coming in and they're not about to play. They are all about making things grow and glow. We couldn't have better energy to get moving and grooving. And if you want the rest of that, that's members only, and you can check it out in the Patreon. That is the energy I'm talking about. When we put blinders on, we're doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's all bullshit. Put your blinders on so you can take action that actually benefits you. It's that important. I'm going to be jamming on that. That is why I'm putting out Living by Luna, which one of the fun things about Living by Luna is it has the seeds of what's in healing the money wound. And both books are coming out this year. I'm just in revisions on healing the money wound. I put up the cover where it stood. I fixed it now. Thanks for all the input. I have had the hardest time trying to get that cover done. And I'm not the one, I hired somebody to do it, but it wasn't coming out the way I see it. And I don't really have This is why clear vision helps, because when you don't have one, good Lord have mercy. I'm not an artist. I'm a writer, okay? Although I did do the cover for Living by Luna, but it's a different approach. It's kind of a hybrid of spiritual and practical. Healing the Money Wound is a framework. And if I had my way, and I was told no, but if I had my way, it would look like scaffolding on a building that would be on the cover, because it's giving you a scaffolding. I'm not telling you what to do with your life. I'm not telling you how you're supposed to think. I'm giving you frameworks for you to better understand you, your motivations, what makes you feel secure, how to stabilize, then integrate the information, and then you can look at the patterns that have held you back in the past. But first, let's stabilize and get some evidence that it works for you. If you don't prove to your brain something works, you're not going to keep doing it. That's why people try diets and fail. That's why people try budgeting and fail. But in Living by Luna, which again, it's a passion. It's very close to my heart. It's a process I started as a young astrologer for me to learn more about astrology. And that desire to know just opened up this process that matured as I matured as a human being, as an astrologer, as a teacher. It just matured into this beautiful process that not only will help you understand astrology a little bit more, it's going to help you understand your interior self so much more. Like why you react instead of respond, why certain days in the month besides your period, why are you more reactive than what you can do about it. It's a really great project. So I'm trying to get that recorded, because the written part that could be the audio is going to be very short. I don't think it'll be more than an hour or 2 hours maximum. Maybe it'll be a little longer. I don't think so. And then I'll do some classes around it. I can get that recorded here. I'm not sure I'll get Healing the Money Wound recorded while I'm here. I may have to do it later. I'm still revising the interior, and if you're in the Awake Space community, you've already heard me read the first 4 chapters. I'll be reading the rest of part 1 to the whole of the community, and then when I get into 2 and 3, I'll be reading that in Laurie's test lab. So, which I'm excited about. I love reading to people, so we'll do more live readings of the work. These frameworks aren't just like self-help. It's not like this is my method to make you perfect. This is a framework I created and a process that helps you distill you to you. This is a process that will help you understand you are not broken. You are not bad with money. You are not a bad person for having reactivity. Because I hate all of the push for like self-regulate, regulate yourself, regulate, without understanding how to do it, first of all, successfully, making people feel shame and guilt for having feelings at all. Can you tell I'm a Cancerian? And maybe we're not supposed to be fucking robots. We shouldn't be reacting all over the place and hurting people. We shouldn't be name calling. That whole telling it like it is, or I'm just telling the truth, can be very evocative and provocative, and people will weaponize that as an excuse of being honest. That's a reactive pattern. It's just you're not yelling. There's a whole lot of ways we can do things, right? Don't feel accused if you feel like I just read you, okay? It's human behavior, all right? But to me, if we can identify the pattern, we can change it. I don't think we need to go back and figure out what caused the pattern to fix it. I just need to see a pattern and then, aha. So if you've got clogged pipes, 9 times out of 10, if they're super clogged and you can't get them unclogged, let's say it's got calcification in there and you have not been able to get rid of it, you can't flush the line anymore, you could do a lot of studies on the groundwater and all of that. And you might want to know that for later. But if you want your indoor plumbing to work, you probably need to lay new pipes. Both can be true at the same time. And so what I've created is a way for you to build new pipes while you're waiting for the results of all the tests to come in, and you can make sense of that at another time and decide what to do with it later. But in the meantime, let's be functional and functioning, because we can't afford to wait for the powers that be to get their shit together, because they're not going to. Okay? They're not going to. The decisions and the die has been cast. We were always going to be in massive systemic change. We just took a little faster route, and things are really going to accelerate. Although, I don't know. When I look at things, I don't think it's a single individual. I think there's a global effort the more I look at all the pieces playing. And that's something I talk about in the community. I don't really talk about it here publicly on the podcast. But I see a global effort to shift things because there's a lot of half truths being spoken out there by different officials. Just saying. Just saying. Oh my goodness. Anyway, next week I'm gonna be excited to talk to you about the Chelsea Flower Show, and hopefully I'll have some really pretty pictures to share with you. I'm very excited for my daughter and I to go to that. We've been looking forward to that. We've got our tickets. The whole thing is what we almost didn't. Like, it was like we got the last day tickets because they were sold out. And Virgo Child did some errand running for me. And I now have better walking shoes because my hiking shoes are great to prevent rattlesnake bites on ankles, and they're good for walking in tough terrain. Not so good for city walking. Not so. She got me some really good walking shoes, and it's like walking on clouds. And I've been able to get my steps in, which is great. So I'm getting fit while I'm here as well. At least I'm earning my croissants. But yeah. So that Taurus energy, let me tell you. Again, I'm recording this just as the Taurus new moon is forming. So I'm doing it ahead of time because I have to be up really late for Matilda and my event. Let's do some community news. We have the best community at the Awake Space. I don't think people really get um, just how wonderful a like-hearted space it is. If you haven't jumped into the chats in the Awake Space, please do. Come introduce yourself, say hi. We'd love to talk with you. Uh, our supporting members are not just supporting of the podcast, they are supportive of each other, the process. They make my day. They're silly, goofy nuts who have big hearts and have a wide range of experience and help each other. You know, just like I know a couple months back, I talked about everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. Remember that book? Our people really do share their milk and cookies and hold hands crossing the street. So if you are a longtime listener but you haven't, joined into the Patreon, just know it's a really safe space to be in. Beautiful community, and I'm proud of it every single day. I think that's one of my favorite things, whether people are asking for help in the garden or sharing their creative projects, whether it's art or playlists or their writing and their poetry, sewing clothes for their grandkids or their kids. I mean, it's just really cool. I love seeing everybody. And then just wicked senses of humor. So now, if you have had trouble getting in, like accessing the Patreon or accessing the chats or the live streams, every Tuesday we're putting out a glitch report. And if you would please fill that out so that we can get it to the right places and get your access assured, because there's still some glitches happening. Remember, I talked about the whole network thing. The quips are working great, but we've got a few hiccups happening with live streams, and we've got a few hiccups happening in the chats. Nobody's blocking you. I'm not blocking you. None of that's happening. It's not an on purpose thing. It's just tech gremlins. And did I have tech gremlins in my predictions? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I did. They're not supposed to affect me, but they're there. Anyway, that was a joke. That was a joke. All right, let's say thank you to our newest members. I always love to give a shout out because without you, there is no me. And my greatest appreciation to the people who come to the Awake Space, either being awake and not knowing what to do next and just learning to dive in, or to the people who are knowing what to do next but can't find the right resources. So there's layers to what we offer and what we do to help people move and groove through these uncertain times, but we're building the future forward. So, thank you. All right. Let's say thank you, which by the way, I do have a discount coming out this week. So stay tuned and watch. It'll come out. I had one, but it wasn't what I thought it was. So anyway, now that I've totally sounded like, Gene Wilder from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we have our newest paid members. We've got Laura, Susan, Katsirna, Vonda, May, Kara, Demi, Still Me, Harmony, Jasmine, Unbothered Ham, Joey, Leslie, Shira, Amelia, Deborah, Jen, Amethyst, Nikki, John, Anne, Claudia, Miranda, Jen, Catherine Marie, Daniela, Jonesy, Tara, Alexia, Karen, Joyce, Meredith, Lilith, AJ, Jackie, Laura, Kristen, Kirsten, John, Danny, Claudia, and there we are. I want to thank you all for being members of the Awake Space. I found out that my link wasn't on my TikTok account again, my link tree. You guys can always check that out. I'll put a link to the link tree here where you can see a list of all the things that are going on. If you're a patron, make sure you take advantage of the discount to sign up for the 2027 year ahead. This one is coming out with a planner. You guys, everybody who signs up for the event gets a digital planner and of course the recording of the event with the Q&A. And I never release the Q&A to the public. It's exclusive to you. All right. But you got to sign up for it. But you get 50% off, right? So make sure you check the post in the Patreon. All right, coming up next, we're going to be talking about using astrology in ways that are more useful and why knowing enough to be dangerous can hurt you. And we're going to also talk a little bit more. And we're going to be adding to the astrocartography conversation. I'm going to talk about why having enough information to be dangerous can really lead to bad results. Welcome to the Astrologers Roundtable with the ineffable Damien, the spectacular Shelby, and I was going to say salacious, but we're not going to say salacious, Suzy. We're going to say stupendous. It was the first word that popped in my head. I'm like, who's being stimulated?
I'm okay with it.
Right? Salacious Suzy. But anyway, we are the crew at Awake Space Astrology, and today we're going to talk about things that are really close to our heart, and that is how we communicate to our clients, because each one of us is here as a person of service and is dedicated to helping people really get to understand not just themselves, but how they can maximize their natural skills and talents, abilities, their natural energy flow to live a life worth living. So let's talk about, how do we speak with our clients? How do we communicate news, good, bad, indifferent, all the crazy stuff and all the good stuff?
Well, the first thing that I'm doing is looking at how you communicate, how you receive information, how you work well with, how you want to hear the news. And a lot of times, if people have seen me out in the wild on social media or have interacted with me in other places, they'll tell me, like, I booked you because I felt like you were going to give it to me just straight. I don't want you to. But even straight comes with looking at your chart and making sure that I'm not poking any of those buttons on your Wonka Vader that will make you feel judged, shut down, blamed, because sometimes things are going left, and it's really important to tell people that, like, you know, burnt toast theory sometimes, like, right, like that is, and sometimes things are happening for your highest good, but it don't feel like that in the moment. But really, that's and I mean, that happens all the time. And I think about at the time that I got a reading right before I got very, very sick, and my plan was to slide slowly into semi-retirement and go fully into, because this is something that I had been practicing on the side and studying since I was 19. And so I was going to just slowly kind of gracefully move into, and somebody said, oh, there's big changes coming. I took it as other things. If I had gone to say Laurie at the time, or anybody, or wouldn't have been Laurie because Laurie wouldn't have said that way, and they told me, you're going to lose your job. You're going to have the best financial week you've ever had in the career that you've had, that you've mastered. And then you're going to be jobless. Like, you're just going to lose your job overnight. I would have panicked. It is why I get to be here with these funky bunch, with Laurie and everybody here. It's why I get to meet all of you. It is the best thing that happened to me. And all it did was just, it expedited things, right? But I was ready, but that would have scared the bejeebas out of me. And sometimes we can see something happening for you that's in a good way, and the languaging we're going to use is not going to be the same for everybody. I'm going to use the languaging I'm going to apply to the place where you already know you're kind of a badass, and if you don't know, I'm going to remind you that you're a badass. And yeah, but it's a very individual thing for me. It's because I'm looking at, and also I'm looking at maybe some bumps and bruises in that, so I'm avoiding triggers kind of thing.
We always try to ask qualifying questions because we can see the transits that have come before and that are coming up. So if you're coming to us with a reading and there's been some significant transits that have occurred, we have a relatively good idea of what you have gone through. There's a range of expressions and experiences based on where it is in your chart. So with that, we come in with the language, the care, the sensitivity, the grace, to know where things might be challenging, and then to ease through whatever it might be that you might be going through. I know that seems vague, but it's truly like when you have bumps and curves in your life. Like I remember one client was working with me, and they were like, they were trying to figure out who they were outside of their work. Like, because a lot in people in North America identify their life as their work, and that's who are they outside of their work. And so that's when we look, at your chart and go, here's where you shine. Here's your gifts and your talents. Have you thought of applying yourself in this way? And usually sometimes it's an aha moment, or maybe they haven't given themselves permission to apply themselves in such a way. And I'm like, this is what we do. We're here like, this is a gift you have. This is the natural resonance of your chart where you shine, where you make music in the world, just by being. Like, here, go there. A lot of times that's kind of like how the communication, there's a lot of careful thought that goes into it. So I was talking a bunch. There you go.
That was beautiful.
Damien always does everything beautifully.
Damien is someone who can very much translate the story of you to you and equip you to be the protagonist in your own life, and that's a really beautiful gift. But maybe
it's so hard to be in a bad mood around Damien.
It is hard to be. He's a little joy bunny, but yeah,
sunshine,
right. And building relationship through the communication to help people and equip them meet that beautiful vision is important. And even when it comes to seeing the problem or hearing the problem from the client and being able to translate it. And one of the things Shelby is extremely good at is accuracy in the timing windows and gently prompting people into taking the action that'll better serve them. Speak on that. Speak on what do you do? How do you speak to clients, Shelby?
Well, I like to see what their Mercury is, where it's at, because that is what's going to help me when it comes to how does somebody give or receive information, how are they going to process it, especially somebody has a retrograde Mercury like myself, you're gonna cook on it for a little bit before you speak on it. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Don't ever let some astrologer tell you there's something wrong with having a retrograde planet, because it's so far from the truth. We just process things differently. So it's a matter of being adaptable in that case. Like I've seen situations, like I remember seeing a chart where there was somebody who had a lot of pressure going on in their chart and they really wanted to execute this thing. And I'm like, actually, that's going to do more harm than good. You want to play a more strategic route with that. And I'd rather be just a little bit blunt about, actually, I would stop and think about doing this decision and see what other options that you have, because to take a really predeterministic route or to act like your fate is sealed in some kind of way is like the worst way to go and communicate in a consultation, because we don't 100% just guarantee something. It could go one way, it could go another way, but it does depend on the usage of empowered free will, as the group has mentioned before. It's when it comes to something like maybe there's a crunchy time coming up. This is what I'm practicing too, by the way, just as a newer astrologer as well, is just it's okay to let somebody know if there's a crunchy time coming up. You don't have to communicate it in some panic-inducing manner. You can just be like, hey, there might be it might kind of feel like there's hiccups. It might kind of feel slow right now with Saturn going through a house, or Mars going through again, like your 12th or your 4th house or your 8th, where it's just a quieter strategic type of a time. I want to show that there is still some kind of possibility of you to be able to do something, and to show you that you're not locked in forever. Not locked in the trend way that they're saying, oh yeah, let's go get this and make this go, but you're not trapped in your fate. The stars did not trap you in some kind of a way and say that this is the direction and the path you're stuck going down. Like, I want to show people that there are different possibilities that are there, and that there is some kind of hope, even if there is some difficulty going around.
Yes. What is the statement? When it's darkest, that's when you see the stars. I was talking to a friend and looking at their astrology, because it just kind of have had a bumpy ride in the last 4 weeks or so. And I know their chart, but I decided to pull it up just because it helps me just tune in, right? Instead of trying to pull everything from memory. And Saturn is approaching their Venus in the 2nd house. And so we know what Venus and Aries, they like what they like. They have very particular tastes. And for them, security is really important. And I was like, so a lot of times people will say, because I know this person watches videos out in the world. And I was like, so you're going to hear that if you have Saturn going through your 2nd house, it's all struggle. It's the struggle bus. But what it's actually doing is saying you need to create structure to future-proof yourself, because this is coming back in 28 years. So instead of panicking and going into austerity measures, what structures can you personally create besides not spending money? But what can you do to work with your own energy patterns, your own desires, hopes, dreams, and aspirations, whatever it is, to create more income flow coming in? Because most people's reaction to bad economic news is to stop spending, right? But that shuts down the flow of resources.
Astrology just fear-mongers Saturn so badly too. Like when I have Saturn going through your house, it's something, it's a spot where you're going to earn something, essentially, or you're kind of working towards something. This is like okay, we're gonna lock in now. The next the next usage of the term locked in, but this time that like that building of the structure, earning something or working towards something, it doesn't mean it's going to like just throw you back and you're going to lose all of the progress you've ever made or something like.
Yeah, it shows where you have to open up to other possibilities too, to build a different kind of foundation. If it ain't working, you gotta look for something that is. But that's great. So
Saturn is the wisdom we glean from experience. Like that is when I always tease, like people say it's constriction and it's this and that. And I'm like, no, when you go, and people say PhD and the certificate of hard knocks at the University of Hard Knocks, but like that's Saturn. That just means that you learn from your experience and it wants to build something that stands the test of time.
Right.
So.
It's a teacher. Like none of the planets should be feared, and it should never be communicated to anybody that you should be afraid of this planet that's coming.
Exactly. Yeah, that's clickbait and it's shitty astrology. And I know there's going to be a dozen people in our comments saying, no, you don't understand. I went broke. I went blah, blah, blah. But why did you go broke? If Saturn was going through there, what weren't you listening to? We're not judging. We're in accountability season right now as we record this. So
it's no joke.
It's just started. So it isn't a blame thing, but sometimes the universe turns up the volume till we listen. And I don't know about you. I have certainly had it at a jillion decibels in my life in the past. We all do that. That's part of the lessons we learned. But if it was hard, were we thinking in an austerity mindset? Were we, I cut it. Well, if you're cutting if you cut out every calorie, you starve.
And the energy of fear is probably not helping.
Yeah.
But,
and we all have those shit moments.
And I will say that a lot of times people will come in because everyone's astro curious right now, which we love. We're here for it, right?
Curious is a good thing.
But a lot of information, but not like the layers of the information can somebody be dangerous when it's just playing around in somebody's head that doesn't have foundations and everything. And they'll be like, oh, this is going to happen. And I know this is going to be hard now because this is happening. And it's a completely different transit. It has nothing to do with the planet that they're worried about. Or it's a collective experience that this, and as my mom used to say, this too shall pass. You know, life ebbs and flows. The one constant is change. So
and instead of and just to piggyback on what you're saying, Suzy, about the fear of cutting things, instead of the panic of austerity, just pause, take a breath, take a couple of in through the nose, out through the mouth, give yourself 4 or 5 seconds and go, what do I need to be open to instead of closed? Right? Don't think of it as being cut off. For me, for example, in 2020, just whole life metaphorically burned to the ground. Everything that I've been building for 3 years, gone because of, and it was a choice. It's do I stay and destroy my mental health, or do I leave and see what the universe has in store with me? Which, by the way, is why I'm here. It literally walked me here. So as we're coming into the season of accountability, open up to the possibility. Just be open. I mean this, take your arms and spread them wide open and go, okay, universe, what is the possibility? So that's just.
And I was going to say the consultation too, we're here to help shine a light onto things. We're not here to just throw you into a corner. And again, we're not predetermining anything for you. We're showing you your options and what you can do in this moment. And it gives you an awareness, and the universe may be loud, and we'll show you where the universe may be loud and communicating with you, but we also can help kind of turn that volume down a little bit so you can hear it a little bit better, and then be able to decipher and discern it, and then take an action course from there.
Right.
Because that's quite important.
That was one of the things I was talking about with my friend, was okay, I know you feel this, and let's open up a little bit. And what if you explore the following things? How to, and I'm going to leave it open. It's up to the client to take the action.
We'll never
can't
make you do something.
Yeah, and we can't. Like, we can't. We can't make our own kids do things.
No,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's like, how are we gonna make, it's like, pick up your shoes and then win it. But we open the range, and if you take this action, this is a more likely outcome. If you take this action, this is a more likely outcome. And it's, if we know, so like, we're not financial advisors. We're not licensed, but we can refer you to we can say, I've had clients experience the following. This was some of the things that worked for them. This is a window in time that is good for the following actions. But if you don't understand, so like investing, if you don't understand investing, don't do it just because it's good timing, because you're operating from ignorance. But we'll refer you. When I see a juicy time coming for a client, I'm like, you got a financial advisor, right? And they're like, actually, yes. And I'm like, okay, you need to talk with them because there's some opportunity in the next 3 months that you want to take advantage of. What happens when a client is trying to defer decision making to you? Because that happens. It happens a lot. There's a lot of people who think we're magic.
I have to just bring that back to them and say that, like, this is your chart. This is, I don't mean to sound mean, but it's like, this is your responsibility and your chart, and these are the transits that are coming. And at the end of the day, the ultimate decision maker is going to be the client. We can't force anybody into a decision, and it's not ethical to force anyone into a decision, nor is it ethical to be a replacement for medical advice, legal advice, financial advice, things of that nature. We still need to operate within our ethical realm when helping you out. And also, again, like I said, you're not locked or trapped in some kind of a box. It's a matter of using your free will.
And how do we help clients do that, use their free will? Because, I went on my pulpit before we started where I've talked about, we have not been trained to use our free will. We're told we get to make choices. And that's a shitty thing to do to people, because sometimes you don't, if you're operating off your instinctual consciousness because you're terrified of what's coming up, which is normal and human to do, or if you're operating off your social programming, if you were trained to be a good girl, or a good boy, or a good they, them, you're not really using your free will. So how do you guys manage that with your clients? How do you help give them empowered free will? How do you help empower that free will with them?
Small steps. What's something small and actionable? Oh, go on, Suzy.
Sorry, I always say that, like, whether I'm in a client or a community space, one of the things that I will reiterate again and again is that perspective is the space that we make decisions out of. And so helping them to give perspective on themselves first and foremost. Sometimes I'm doing a session for somebody and I can see how brilliant they are, but I can also see maybe how oppressive a parent was, or an early start, or a socioeconomic geographic place that they have always kind of felt smart, but maybe they didn't think that they could take a leap into someplace. And I want to see people satiate their chart and their soul and their desires in a way that just focuses on what their strengths, what their resources are. That's like, resources go beyond money. And so resources are our natural abilities, and nothing in the world will show you your natural abilities better than your astrology chart. And so for me, it's helping them to understand the best of them, so that perspective of decision making, that space of decision making is done from however I can support their perspective. But the win is the other deep belief, because I deal with people in trauma, and I don't like when anyone takes somebody else's win away. That win is yours. That decision is yours. That right. So like, I want to make you feel really great the next time we meet, because that's normally how things go. And you're going to be
Right.
like, I sat with it and it made me feel so good. And that, because that is their evolution.
Yeah.
It is not for me to take credit. That is working out of ego, and I don't align with that. So I think
Right.
that,
No one here
yeah,
does.
yeah,
We operate from a strength-based model in
yeah.
progressive evolutionary astrology. Um,
So people don't know their abilities until you straight up tell them, like, oh, you actually have this transit. You're great at finding information that you're looking for. You're great at diving into that rabbit hole. You're great at talking to other people and negotiating with them, even like something small like that. And none of that is like a fake compliment or anything like that. We literally see it in the chart. We see what you're good at, and everybody's good at something.
The magic's already inside you.
100%.
We might be magical creatures, yes, but we will also show you where, as Shelby was saying, the magic's in you.
Yeah.
You have it. It is inherent.
The whole time.
Right. So we're going to continue this conversation in the next episode because we all have a lot to say on empowering people's free will, decision making, how we help people navigate challenges, and what happens when we see the train coming. Up next on the Astrologers Roundtable. So you know the conversation. I've had it a million times. You can know enough to be dangerous. And that's when you think you know a lot more than you do. Recently, I came across somebody who decided to be really mad at me because I would not be a conspirator in their goal to think badly about themselves. Okay, they wanted their astrology to prove why they were fucked up, basically. And whereas we can see in the chart where there are challenges, we can see where there is trauma, but none of that dooms you to a lifelong agreement with pain. None of it dooms you to experience that over and over and over again. But you have to do a pattern interrupt if you want to stop it. But never am I going to sit in agreement with you that you're fucked for life. Okay. And I'm going to just be really plain spoken because this is something I feel very, very strongly about. Mostly because I busted my ass to get where I am today against all odds, with multiple fields, professional fields, telling me I was screwed because of things that had happened to me in the past. And there are people today who would tell me I'm screwed because I'm blind and I don't have a great face for the camera. I mean, I've been told these things. I was told by venture capital that the programs that I am now putting out into the world that have been thoroughly vetted and tested, okay, was too human to invest in. They didn't want to do it because it was too high touch, too human. There is always a reason to say, no, you cannot succeed. People can say you're not worth it, you're not it, you don't fit the bill. And you don't have to believe them. There is a certain amount of delusion that is good, which is, I know I have the right stuff. I know I have the skill sets. It might take me more time, but I'm going to build this thing out. Even if there's people who incidentally sabotage, maybe through weaponized incompetence, maybe through a refusal to be in agreement that it can happen. You know, maybe they're not doing anything actively to sabotage, but by doing nothing, by omitting, they're not in your corner. There's a lot, this energy is really up on deck right now, so you need to pay attention. So if somebody is telling me all these things are why, and they're telling me the aspects in their chart and the placements in their chart, and they have maybe 5, 6 years of actual study. Reading horoscopes and Cosmo doesn't count. Okay. Reading a couple of, books from Barnes and Nobles when you're 14, 15 doesn't count as study. Okay. There is academic study. And I know a lot of young people have been robbed of understanding really, truly how to study. Okay. To become very adept at their subject matter, not just be able to regurgitate someone else's theories, but truly understand and synthesize the knowledge. I get that. But at the same time, if you have this much experience and you're telling someone with this much experience why these placements are dooming you, and the expert who has been doing this not only intellectually and academically, but has lived experience, and you want agreement and you want to be told, oh, you're right, that you are doomed, you're not going to get that here. And don't be mad when I say it. No, that's not necessarily the case. See this thing that you're seeing this way in this negative light? If you can flip it on its ear and you take this energy, you're really good at X, Y, and Z. I know it's difficult right now. It doesn't always have to be. Deep breaths. I know it hurts, but we can transmute that pain. We can, but it takes a decision. And I know it's not always what you want to hear, but I am never going to sit in agreement with your limitations. I am not. It's not going to happen. I mean, because if I did, what kind of teacher would I be to go, oh yeah, you're right, you're fucked? And I've said that in jest to people, just to get there. Like, no, you don't understand. This happened and this happened. Okay, then you're fucked. What else do you want? What else do you want? Do you want to have a life that feels worth living? Do you want to build your security? Or do you want to stay in a loop of story that makes your life a living hell? Because it doesn't even have to be either or. You can just move over to the side and have a decent, okay life. You don't have to have a life that's like Indiana Jones. You can just be like, hey, maybe my life doesn't have to suck as much. Hey, but if you're going to be committed, you're not going to get agreement from me. I'm not going to do it. That's not my shtick. I'm not here to be codependent with you and sit and worry about you liking me. That's not my job. My job is to help you fully understand that you can be embodied in yourself and have a reasonably content life. Not everybody is going to live a life of adventure. In fact, that's the worst thing. Like, not every hobbit is cut out for that, okay? I happen to be a hobbit with a lot of tookishness. Not every hobbit is like that, okay? We got Mars and Taurus and Venus and Cancer, and it's 11Zs are good, okay? When you have enough knowledge to be dangerous, you help no one, especially yourself. If you're always looking for the cause of your pain or why you're broken, as a, oh, see, there it is. Now I don't even have to try. Oops, there it is. I'm always fucked. And it's frustrating to me to listen to it. It just is. When there are actual processes you can use to dig out of that. Now, I didn't say it was easy, and I didn't say it was without pain. And I know what it's like to hurt. And sometimes it feels really good to get a little label that says, this is why. But why doesn't fix it. This is why helps us go, okay, I'm not as crazy, or maybe I am as I thought I was. We can use astrology to map our way out because it's a navigation system. And sometimes that involves a relocation. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's hard to heal in the environment that is actively wounding you. So sometimes you have to move from that to move forward. Sometimes you do. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can just be where you were born. Everybody's different. But if you're going to go to an astrocartography chart and go, oh, there's my Venus line or my Jupiter line, and not look at everything else, you may find out, especially if you haven't done the work, you may find out that it is not everything you thought it would be. Because you're not looking at the whole picture. The biggest benefit of really learning how to be self-observant, whether you use astrology or not, or if you are learning astrology, how to critically assess layers of consciousness and the meaning. And it takes time. You're not going to be good at it in 2 months. You're not going to be good at it like fluent in a year. You'll be pretty good. I play games of hot potato, cold potato with my astrologers especially when it comes to predictive work. When it comes to more like psychological astrology or relocation astrology, then we chat about it, right? Because I want them to think it through. That's how I was trained. Hot potato, cold potato. I'll be like, hey, when I see this and this, does it mean this? And then be like, you're a little cold. I'm like, can I have a clue? No, figure it out. Come back. Because we're exercising the mental body. We are exercising the gray matter, and it isn't about having a lot of information. It's knowing what to do with that information. And that's so, so, so important. Not just as an astrologer, but in life in general. And we have so disabled our people in general. And I'm not even going to say young people, because there's people who are well grown who have been indoctrinated and manipulated into believing that only certain people have all the answers and they just have to do what they're told. And then life's good. And it's not. It's not. One of the things I tell my astrologers when I'm teaching is that people come to us and they see us as magic, whether we like it or not, whether I do this education on this podcast or not. And people are at a crossroads or in crisis, and they are looking for us to give them their answers. And if you are an ethical astrologer, you do not take people's power away, you hand it back. And you say, here's your options. You can use the energy like this, or you can use the energy like this. Do you like doing the following things? Okay, well, out of A, B, and C, which sounds better to you? Okay, B sounds good. All right, well, the timing for B looks like this. We don't want to take any of it. Because if somebody comes to me who's had a lot of losses, maybe they've had a bad relationship, maybe they lost their job, sometimes it happens all at once. I can sit with them and say, okay, this was a really painful time. This was really hard to go through. I'm so sorry you've been going through these times. Number one, here's the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. And here, let's look at some of the silver linings. What have you learned? Because with these types of transits, whatever they are, this is what was available to you. And this is what you can learn from it, so that when these transits way in the future come, you are more prepared. The transits and the planets reflect and mirror the potentials that we live through. It's why I'm very, very careful about how I teach astrology. Because if I say these are the markers for trauma, and I have them broken down into the different kinds of trauma, and I did that research. I spent 8 years researching trauma indicators of different kinds of abuse, different kinds of traumatic events, etc. And I thought I would teach it one day, teach it widely. And then the internet and social media happened, and I saw how people misuse information, because it's not a given if I see this particular conjunction in a chart that something really awful has happened. There has to be 2 or 3 other things that signify that kind of event in specific. But if I were to say, when I see this in combination with this and in combination with this, these are the type of questions I will ask a client. If I do that, then there's going to be some little watching my media, and they're going to run with the most sensational thing and then scare the shit out of the population. And I'm not cool with that. So I gatekeep that, and I wait till I have people around me who are not going to misuse that information, and I teach the ones in my circle. Students that have taken my other classes that I see have a very strong degree of ethics, a very strong degree of discernment, and are willing to take the time to parse through consciousness. There's a reason I have Shelby, Damien, and Suzy with me. They all are very good at translating what's in an astrology chart. Our job is not to give astrology lessons in a reading. Our job is to translate what's going on in the chart. And anybody who thinks different doesn't understand what we do and didn't read the descriptions of our offerings. So I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have to know everything all at one time. If you have just begun your studies over the last several years and you know enough to be dangerous, stop looking for the shoes that are going to fall. Stop looking for what's wrong with you in the chart. And don't put on the rose-colored glasses when it comes to Jupiter. Be the observer on that one. But be careful if you're reading your own astrology. Be careful with that. I mean, that's why I have the astrology crew. People can ask me questions. If you're in the astrology crew, you can always ask me questions. When we meet up once a month, you can ask me then, even if it's not part of the class I taught. You'd be like, hey, I had this question. I'll be glad to answer. That's what the astrology crew is for. Okay? If you're not in the astrology crew, I'll be offering classes again soon. Yeah, you're welcome to come into those. You can ask questions in the Awake space in the magazine. I don't have questions this week because I forgot to ask them. I will have them next week, thanks to the members and subscribers of the Awake Space magazine. And if you want to check out the Awake Space magazine, you can head over to the awakespacepodcast.com and check out the collections. You'll find it in the magazine collection. The collections are categories of posts there, but you can grab a copy of the Awake Space magazine if you just want to buy it. If you want to subscribe, you get a savings every month and the ability to interact with me in different ways. But oh my goodness, use the energy of this Mars-Venus action that we've got. Remember, Venus spends 4 weeks in a sign. So starting today, Monday, Venus is going to be in Cancer for the next 4 weeks. And she's going to meet up with Jupiter. That's going to be a really cool day. And I'll talk about that more next week. And then we've got Mars in Taurus for 6 weeks. This is very good, diligent action. Very good, diligent action. It's not a time for rash behavior. It's not a good time to, be a chaos goblin, but it's a really good time to take step-by-step productive action. If you ever read Aesop's Fables, the ant and the grasshopper reminds me of this energy. The ant and the grasshopper lived near each other, in their animal village, and the ant was always working, and the grasshopper would make fun of him. He's like, you never play, you never do anything fun, you're always working. And the ant was like, okay, so what you want? And would continue working. And the grasshopper would fiddle and dance and fiddle and dance. And when it came winter, the ant was nice and cozy. And the ant had asked the grasshopper for help in the summer, and the grasshopper was too busy playing and didn't help. Keep that in mind. And then in the winter, the grasshopper wanted help, and the ant was like, too bad, tough nuts. And it can seem really mean. Like, why couldn't you help the grasshopper? Well, because the ant kept telling the grasshopper, winter's coming. We need to have the provisions. So, this is really good energy to take step by step, dedicated action. Okay. I'm not saying grind at work, do what you got to do to keep your job, do what you got to do to get a job if you need a job. But if you've got a business, this is the time to take that dedicated step-by-step action to stay secure. It's not a time to freak out. It's not a time to panic. It's not time to have existential dread. It will not help you. It will only hurt you. Okay? You've got to be deliberate in your consciousness right now. And if you do, Cha-Ching come October. Alrighty. I'll talk to you next week. Still from London. I'm Laurie Rivers. Thank you for listening.